It will, of course, take years for the full impact of the Chilcot report into the Iraq war to be properly measured. Yesterday, as the man at its heart responded to its publication, it took mere moments for talk to turn to the demeanour and even the sanity of Tony Blair. They are, though, subjects which have long exercised the author Robert Harris. Once a close friend of the former Prime Minister, it's fair to say they'd fallen out by the time Harris published his 2010 novel, The Ghost, featuring a thinly disguised Blair facing trial for war crimes. In this film, Robert Harris considers his former friend's fall from grace.
I first met Tony Blair in 1992, just before John Major beat Neil Kinnock in that general election. And my overwhelming impression, I'd never met him before, he was then Labour's employment spokesman. I was a columnist on the Sunday Times. He was, above all, refreshingly normal. He always talked as if he was separate from the politics in a funny way. He'd empathise with someone outside politics and he'd say, I don't know why I'm doing this, you know, we don't seem to be going anywhere. I don't know why I just don't give it all up and go and practice as a barrister and spend more time with Cherie and the kids. One cannot underestimate the importance of that quality in Tony Blair with what made the 1997 election possible. I was with him in his constituency home, in his sitting room, standing with him at 10 o'clock on election night when the exit poll was first revealed, and David Dimbleby said, we predict it will be Labour with a majority of 140 seats. Extraordinary, nobody had forecast that. And I remember saying to him, how do you feel? Because I was having to write all this up. And he said, I feel nothing really. I mean, I'm just ready to get on to the next thing. When I first arrived at his home in Sedgefield, there was just the ordinary kind of policeman on the door. But by the time I left, and it was clear he was going to be Prime Minister, there were 5 or 6 men with machine guns patrolling in the gardens. And from that time onwards, I guess he never lived a normal life again. I remember going to dinner in Chequers in the summer after he was elected Prime Minister. And really almost the first warning sign I got was that they were discussing cabinet meetings, and Roy Jenkins was there. And in the 60s, when he'd been a cabinet minister, they were 2 hours on a Tuesday and 2 hours on a Thursday. And I remember Tony Blair saying, oh, we won't be doing that, it'll be 45 minutes once a week. And I remember Jenkins looking at him, and I looked at Roy, and it was the first moment that one thought, this is going to be a very personal one-man government. He often wore makeup. I mean, even when he wasn't in a television studio. I don't know why. I suppose maybe it just appealed to him, that sense of sort of always being a performer.
You don't pray together, for example?
No, we don't pray together, Jeremy, no.
Religious faith is very important to him, and I think that he developed a very Manichaean view of the world, of good and evil. When I saw that he had written to George Bush, I am with you, whatever, it has the biblical connotation, you know, I will be with you even to the end. And so I think you can see there this sort of very personalised, very, well, for want of a better word, messianic kind of view about politics. As things went wrong, then he developed a kind of a masochism strategy that really almost reached its full flowering yesterday with the publication of the Chilcot report. And that was almost like Christ nailed to the cross.
In that case,
with Tony Blair, you can never be quite sure where the public performance ends and the private man begins. But I felt there that perhaps there was a mixture of the two, that he was playing Christ on the cross, but also, in a way, in his soul, he is in anguish, and that he is morphed into this strange figure that is not any longer quite of this world. It's said that all prime ministers go mad after a time, and certainly Margaret Thatcher began to behave very erratically. But I don't think any has gone quite as strange, I'm afraid, as Tony Blair, simply because he started out so ordinary to begin with.